Hi! Today I'm talking with Anu Smalley. We talked about how a person that finally listened to her influenced her life, how showing up and telling a story got her into training, and what she would teach her 20-year-old self. I'm Anu from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it. Hello everyone, and hello Anu Smalley. Is that how I should pronounce it? Is
That
that
is correct.
I'm these days I'm asking it on purpose on camera so that everybody knows. And if I make a mistake, okay, that's part of how we introduce ourselves.
Yep.
And with here, I mean, I'm in Belgium, and well, I had a little problem with Google Earth. So tell the people who are here, where are you? Where can they find you?
So I am based in the eastern part of the United States, in the state of Georgia, which is in the it's in the southern southeastern part. And I'm in a town called Atlanta, which is also fondly known as Hotlanta because it is extremely hot most of the year in Atlanta. Um, It's about 3 hours from 4 hours from the coastline. So it's more
Hmm.
inland. So it gets a little hot.
It gets a little hot, and at this moment on my side, it's 7 o'clock in the evening, 10 minutes after 7 o'clock in the evening. What time is it on your side?
For me, it's about 10 minutes after 1 p.m. in the afternoon.
So we're very far away, very much time zones away. Weather away here, it just stopped raining.
Ah,
How is it on your side? Is it very hot? Is it sunny
it is.
today?
It is bright and sunny, a beautiful blue sky with some puffy clouds and nice and hot.
Nice and hot, as you just described Hotlanta. So,
Hotlanta.
well, Anu, for the people who don't know you, could you describe us a little bit? Who are you?
Oh, I always dislike this question because I'm like, what do I share? What all do I share? So when people usually ask me, tell me a bit about yourself, I start with, so let me begin with, I was born in India. If you look
Mm,
at me, it might be a little obvious. I am Indian. I was born there. I moved to the United States when I was 21 years old, and I've been here since. My agile journey started about 15 years ago, purely by accident. My entire career has been by accident, by the way. Uh,
mm,
I never wanted to be in IT. I wanted to do different things, but when I graduated from my master's here in the US, the only job I could find was IT. So I took it because I had bills to pay. And 15 years later, I was like, what the heck am I doing in IT? Um, I was head of an IT organization, big team, multiple countries, but I was like, this is not what I want to be doing. And
mm,
that's when I discovered Scrum because I quit my job and moved to a different role, non-IT role, and I discovered Scrum and I realized that my last 15 years before that would have been so much easier if I had just known about Scrum as a
mm.
as an
And
IT
it,
leader.
it
Yeah.
it existed maybe not at the first moment that you started, but not many years later. So,
Yeah, now many years later, I wish I'd known in the 90s about this thing called Scrum because my life as an IT leader would have been so much easier, I think. So I got into IT. I am basically a product owner. Like when I left IT and got into Scrum, I basically stepped into product ownership rather than Scrum
mhm,
Master. I love being a product owner. It's so much fun. And along the way, again, by accident, I got into training because one of my colleagues back in the day said, could you help me out? Could you co-train this class with me? My regular co-trainer is out sick. And my reaction was, oh, but I'm not a teacher.
Mm.
And she went, "You don't have to do much. Just show up, tell a story." I'm like, "I can do that." I showed up, and at the end of the day, I was like, "Oh my God, this is the thing I want to be doing from now on."
Mm.
And that's how I got into training. Then I got into coaching. Agile has changed the way I think and function. My kids grew up believing everybody on the planet uses sticky notes and Sharpies to plan, right? Because that's how they were brought up. So I love
Mm.
I love the agilist part of me. Um, I also like to do a lot of volunteering of my time. I love mentoring people. I love helping grow people and help people. So, being of Indian origin, I also have a bent towards diversity and inclusion, and I bring a lot of that into my work. Um, One of the things that I have been asked to use over and over again is my no button, because
Mm.
I'm incapable of saying no to any requests that come my way usually. So my business partner, my accountability partner, makes me use a no button to make sure I can pause, and before I say sure I'll do that, uh, I can actually breathe and think through what is the best use of my time.
Wow. That's already a wonderful story before we even jumped into these questions. And I'm not surprised in a way that, well, your reputation goes before you. So yeah, I didn't know all the details, but at the same time, I did know some of parts of the story.
Mhm.
Well, and let's jump into that first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are?
So I thought about this question a lot. I'm one of those, I like to read through what I'm going to be talking about. So I did spend some time this morning when I was drinking coffee, and I was thinking of things that have influenced me. There are a few things that have deeply, deeply influenced me. And I don't always share this with everyone. And
Hmm.
I'm in this frame of mind right now that I'm ready to share. So I'm going to share with you what influences me most. So I have a master's in psychology that I did in India, and as part of my work there during
So wait, just to check, because before you said you moved to the United States at 21, so you got that master's before 21 years old. That's how I
yes,
got it. Huh? Okay,
yeah,
sorry for interrupting. Go
yes,
continue.
I have two masters. One is in psychology from India, and then I got a second master's here. Um, and part of my
Wait,
psychology
wait.
degree,
I do want to
yeah,
begin. Yeah, you uh, the reason I put the applause, I can't turn it off when it's once it started. It's
yeah,
but the reason I put it is that you casually just mentioned, "Oh, I got two master's degrees," and I think, well, it is an accomplishment. I think so
thank
that's why I
you,
put the applause. So
thank
again,
you.
I interrupted you.
Yeah.
Continue.
My family is a family of educators, so they're family of
Mm,
teachers. So education was always very important to my parents. And in India, growing up, it didn't matter that we were girls or boys. All my siblings were given were kind of guided towards a education that would sustain us for our careers. So during my master's in psychology, one of the things I worked with was I got to do some internship work with women who were victims of domestic abuse.
mm,
I was 20 years
wow.
old, and in my 20-year-old mind, I was thinking, I'm like, why would anybody allow themselves to be in this position? Why don't you fight? I'm like, I would fight. That was my
Mm,
20-year-old mind, right? I didn't know the world. I didn't know the people in the world. And that was my question. I'm like, why would you let yourself in that position? Fast forward about, I don't know, half a decade or so, maybe 8 years later, I was in a situation where I was a victim of domestic abuse. And I
wow.
realized I didn't put myself in there. You don't even realize. And that, for me, that has influenced me the rest of my life, because I look for signs where I can step in and help. I look for signs where I can help women fight to live. I can help women be their potential, right? I was able to get out of that relationship and thrive. It took me years to get back to where I am. I have a wonderful husband now, and I have two beautiful stepdaughters, and my life is different. And I realize sometimes I go back to my 20-year-old self and say, if I could tell that 20-year-old what I know now, I might have approached my first relationship differently. So for me, that has deeply, deeply influenced everything I do, my mentoring, my volunteering, my coaching, my DNI work, all is focused on the fact that situations, I don't go into situations wondering, why did you allow yourself? I go
Mm.
into situations with a very open mind saying, tell me what I can do to help. And for me, I don't share that part of my story with too many people, but I think it's important to share because when people see the things I do, I often get asked, why do you do all this stuff? It's
That's
because of
right.
my own experiences. This is why.
And can I go back a little bit
Mhm.
to your 21-year-old, where that was that I kind of hear, and I want to check. So maybe
Mhm.
I'm understanding it wrong, but I kind of hear that you had a very, how did I say it? You were very opinionated about these people who were in that situation. And
Very.
what would you tell to your 20-year-old as to teach her?
I think, and I've gone back over my head over and over. I think what I would tell my 20-year-old self is be a little kind and open and compassionate because people don't willingly want to get abused.
Mhm.
And just being willing to listen to a story without judgment. At
And
20
so
years,
what I'm hearing at 20-year-old, you were in contact with some of these people who had been abused, and you didn't, or your 20-year-old version didn't listen to these people as you would
yeah,
listen now.
exactly. I did not know how to listen to them. I did not
Mm.
know how to listen to them without judgment. I did not know how to listen to them with compassion and say, how can I help? Instead of saying, why would you let that happen to you?
And it's interesting because you were in a study, you were doing a master's that was exactly created for this, I kind of would
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
I mean, your university should have taught you about,
yeah.
hey, wait a minute, this is not by choice. Everything you're discussing now, they should have told you
They
in
should
a
have,
way.
yes.
And for whatever reason that didn't happen, or maybe you didn't hear it, that's also part,
Exactly.
because a 20-year-old, that's, if I look at my 20-year-old, I was very opinionated
I
about
know.
a lot of
Yeah,
stuff. It's kind of typical at that age. Maybe
it
not
is.
always good, not always bad as well. These are also people that dare to try to change the world without
Mhm.
too much knowledge, but at the same time, I really like the way you phrase it, that you would really want much more compassion for these people,
Yeah.
much more learning to listen, because it's a lot about that. You talked earlier about how could I help, but the fact that you're just asking questions, listening, is
Mhm.
probably the biggest help that you can
Yeah,
give.
exactly. And having been through that experience myself, I
Mm.
know when somebody for the first time heard what I was trying to say, because it is hard to speak when you're in that kind of relationship. And the first time when somebody actually listened to me and helped me understand what I was going through, I think that was for me, that was like, oh my God, I'm finally being heard. I'm finally being listened to. This has not happened to me in the longest time. This is important. And I think that has impacted the way I work with people, the way I lead people, the way I teach, the way I coach, the way I mentor, everything. The way I'm a mother, the way I'm a wife, it impacts
And
everything.
do I also hear, and I'm not sure because you didn't really say it, but I kind of hear that the fact that someone listened to you also helped you get out of that situation, or was
Yes.
that okay?
Yeah, so somebody actually listening, I said something innocuous and they said, "Wait, tell me more."
Mm.
And
It,
that them
it
just yeah,
just that phrase, it's
just
interesting because someone told me yesterday, asked me yesterday or 2 days ago, how do I should become a better listener? And
mhm,
indeed, I told almost the exact same thing. Simply asking the question, tell me more,
tell me
please say
more.
more,
Yeah.
is you can, I can do it in almost any situation and almost every time. The That question is way better than any
Mhm,
other question I can come up with.
exactly.
And that, in your case, what I'm hearing, that triggered basically the rest of your journey.
It did. And I'm so ever grateful for this person that they asked the question and then they gave me space to speak and then they listened. They did nothing, they
Mm.
just listened. And as I was speaking, I'm going, oh my God, I am that woman back when I was 20, when I was judging them. I
Mm.
have become that person. And how do I get out of this? And that started the rest of my journey. And I have shared my journey with other young women so that they recognize signs, so they do not fall into a relationship that is abusive. And I think it's important for us to teach our young children, boys and girls, how do you
Mm.
recognize these signs of an unhealthy relationship? We don't teach
Thank you
them
for
that.
sharing. No, we hardly do. I think it's, yeah. I think we don't teach enough about relationships,
We
both
don't.
the good and the bad things. I also realized, and it's totally not
Mhm.
related to what you do, but for example, one of the things I think is important is that my children see when I have a discussion with my partner, so that they see us
Yeah.
fighting, but then the good kind of fight, that they see this as part of life. But it took
Yeah.
me a few years to realize that they never saw us making up, because that is something we did when we were more at ease, a little bit later. Probably they were put to bed, and nobody is bothering us. And then we take the time. And it took me a while to see, well, wait a minute, that this is not good, because they only see the bad part. They need
Exactly.
to see the good part. And we're still struggling with it, because if we're trying to do this now, much more visible. But of course, now we have
Mhm.
teenagers, so they jump in and they want to help out, but that's not helping. So, so we're still at another kind of, but at least we show them, and we're very open about the struggling part. That
Exactly.
it is what we need. I think, to teach much more people about all kind of parts of the relationship.
Exactly.
It's thanks for sharing that, because
Yeah.
it's and there is one more question, and we need to go on to that, because we don't want to talk for 4 hours. But I find it so powerful that you share this. Um, the person that asked you that question, did you later on tell that person
Oh,
how the impact was for you?
oh,
Yes.
absolutely. They actually, uh, this person, I'm still in touch with this person. And I actually mentioned years later how they were responsible for me thinking about what was happening, getting out of my relationship, eventually getting some therapy, some help to deal with the emotions and being who I am today now, right?
Mm.
um, People ask me all the time, would you change anything of your life? And I go, my instinctive reaction first was, yeah, why would I go through that? But then I go, the person who I am today, I really like this person. I
Mm.
love my life the way it is today. I love the work I do. I love my husband. I love my kids. I love the friends and family I have here. Everything I've been through, and this person who helped me, that's responsible for who I am today.
I think it's a powerful message. It doesn't say, "Oh, I embraced whatever happened
No,
before," but
no.
yeah, but at least you take the lessons from it, and
You
in that
take the
sense.
lessons. So this is the whole thing about inspect and adapt, being empirical.
Mm.
I now know how to recognize unhealthy signs, and
And
I can
and
call them out.
and you can react to, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's not just in a sense, you didn't just save yourself, you're saving a lot of people, and you're well, saving is maybe the wrong word, but you're helping a lot of people
Yeah,
in recognizing, and then it's up to them to deal with it the way they want to deal with it. Because
exactly.
indeed, sometimes people do make that conscious choice to stay there for
Yep,
whatever reason.
for whatever
uh,
reason.
it feels strange to me, but at the same time, it's their choice, and I think that's also part of it. Forcing people to leave a relationship that's
It
not
doesn't
good,
work.
that also doesn't work. It's
It's a
also
different kind of
abusive in a way.
abuse.
Yeah, exactly. um, Thanks for sharing that. I want to go to that next question, that if you had not been doing what you've been doing now, what could have become of you? Was there anything, if you look back earlier in your life, or that you were destined to become, or other things that
So, I was thinking about this. I'm like, it's ironic that when I was doing my master's in psychology, I wanted to become a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And then I got all these experiences with the abused women, and I said, this is too much of a heartache. So I got into organizational psychology and I did org behavior development. Then I said, you know what? I want to become a organizational growth and development person. When I came to the
mm,
US, I did my master's in business. And at that time, I was like, I still want to work with the organizations and that, change the world and all that stuff. And as I said, my family, entire family is a family of teachers. Mom, dad, brother, sister, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, everybody. They've married
mm,
into a family. They're also teachers. And I used to always think I just don't have the teaching gene in me. So I'll go become an organizational psychologist kind of thing. And at the end of my master's in business, I had an opportunity to join the university to become a teacher.
mm,
And I went, nah, I'm going to go do this IT thing because that's going to pay me more. And
mm,
I come around full circle now. I am a teacher. I am using my
mhm,
psychology to help women and help others. So I think I am doing what I was meant to be doing. And if I had not gotten into IT, I believe I would have gone into university to become an academic professor. I believe I would have actually done more activist work with abuse. I don't do too much of that. I help. I'm not an activist as such. I, I'm not there yet. Perhaps I would have become more of an activist to help abuse victims. That's what I might
mm.
have done, along with teaching.
I find it interesting that you say, because the whole other story I hear you also tell, that you notice the signs, and somewhere in my mind is like, yeah, but if you're an activist, people might, yeah, yeah, you might not be in contact with the people that need you to
Right,
see the signs, because then you would probably be in contact with the people who already know that there
right.
are some problems, and they come to you because they want help.
Yeah.
I hear you basically, in a sense, and maybe I'm exaggerating, yeah, but that you're
Mm.
the step before. You're talking to people who might not even realize it
Correct.
themselves, and you show basically a mirror to them, like, look,
Yeah.
I see some signs. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I understand it, but okay,
That is
that's
exactly right. I think it's very important for us to educate our young, right? How do
mm,
you recognize, as a young person, how do you recognize sign of an unhealthy relationship? If we don't share our stories, if we don't teach them what that looks like, how will they recognize that in their own relationship? For me, that's the thing I want to do. Activism is, I won't be able to do that, right? I want to be able to teach, share stories. One of my dream is that I would be able to create circles of support where we can bring in young people who are in college, because that's where a lot of these unhealthy habits start. So how do you bring people into circles of support to teach them healthy relationships are the way to go? So we fight, but we make up. We annoy each other, but we still love each other. We, get irritated, but that doesn't mean we don't love each other. How do we keep it healthy with open communication? That's important, and also be able to recognize unhealthy relationships so that you can do
mm,
something about it before
it
it
becomes
actually impacts you deeply.
wow. And well, then you say I'm not an activist. Let's say I have. There is different kind of activism, I would
Yes,
say. It's
yes.
so
So I
so
want
you
to
maybe
work
you're
with
not
people.
standing on the
Yeah,
barricade and stuff like
yeah,
that, but at the same time, you want to, yeah, educate, and in that sense, well,
yeah.
welcome to the teachers family, I would say.
Exactly, exactly. So,
It's wonderful how and you're not the first here that is saying that, yeah, I was not going into the direction of my parents, and for one reason or the other we do end
I'm,
up. And I see a lot of things similar. My
yeah,
my mother was a teacher. Yeah, I'm also kind of teaching, not
yeah,
at university or anything like that. Yeah, I see a lot of similarities with me, but also with lots of other people.
yeah.
There are probably some genes and some things that influenced us,
Absolutely.
and
I
we're
think so.
working on multiple kind of things. So thanks for sharing that story and the deeper connections with all of
Yeah.
that. So I find it, yeah, a really powerful story. I want to move to that next question. And what do you consider your biggest challenge, at least one that you want to share on the open on the internet, and why is that a good thing for you?
So I think my biggest challenge, and I struggle with this. It's I don't know if it's my biggest challenge, but um, I think one of my challenges, and this has been a lifelong challenge for me, right from the time I was a kid. I have a stutter.
Hmm.
Certain letters I will start stuttering, right? And as a kid, that made me so conscious of my how I speak because other kids make fun of you.
Hmm.
They
That's
make
that's
fun of
that's
you.
happens a lot. Yes.
That happens a lot. And because of that, I became a very shy, introverted kid.
Mm.
I would not really make friends easily. I would not, you know, and I'm still that way. I'm still an introvert. I'm a social introvert. Put me up on stage in front of 1,500 people, I'm fine. Put me with a small group of people, I've become very conscious about my stutter.
Wow. So talking to a large group, which
Doesn't bother me.
and what I'm hearing is that there's less connection, or you don't know. Well, maybe you know a few people in the 5,000 people, but you don't know who you know. And if
Yeah.
but there's six there, even if you don't know them very well, they're like, okay, they're close to me. They will listen to every word I'm saying,
Yes.
and you shut up. Is that how
Yep.
I should
That
see
is
it?
pretty much. I start becoming very quiet and only I'll talk about subjects I know. I don't like making small talk, small conversation. Um, so I've spent a lot of time dealing with how to speak with a stutter. Like
Mm,
here, you don't hear my stutter, but that's because
I
I've
don't.
spent my entire life understanding which letters I stutter on and how to deal with that, how to use other words. If I and to slow down my talk, because when I start, I'm an Indian, I speak fast. That's what we
Mm,
do. But if I start speaking fast, my stutter becomes very prominent. So, how do I slow myself down? So, my stutter has been a challenge, but and it has also allowed me to try ways to overcome it. I'm a public speaker, I'm a teacher, I speak on stages. I've been the conference chair for the Scrum gathering. N- For 4 years, I helped them do the conferences. I've been on stage, I've opened the conferences. Nobody knows I have a stutter. But because I have a stutter, that is what has pushed me to do more of that, to try and
mm.
overcome that speech impediment so that I can speak. And I think that
Wow.
challenge has helped me grow in ways that my introvertedness would never have allowed. I mentor new voices in various conferences. You are a new voice speaking, I'll mentor you.
Wow. This is I find it incredible how, yeah, like you said, I didn't know about the stutter. I didn't
Yeah.
notice, not in the pre-con talk that we had and others. Yeah, it's a wonderful story. How you, yeah, used well, something negative. I'm not,
Mhm.
I don't dare to say it, but something that was bothering you when you were little, to actually work hard on it and make sure that you, yeah,
Yeah.
it turns into something. And then then you made your life a lot harder by becoming a speaker than by doing coaching sessions.
I
Because okay,
know.
the speaker, I can still see you said 5,000 people, I don't care. So okay,
Yeah.
the larger the audience is, the better it is for your stutter, so that's okay. But then you also become a teacher, which is
Yeah.
smaller groups. You're a coach. You're yeah. So that definitely
Yeah.
is a lot of other things. And I want to go back to the second part. I think you kind of answered it already, but for me, so that second part of that question was, why is that a good thing for you? Could you make it even more explicit than you did now?
So, a couple of things, right? Growing up, as I said, I was a very shy, introverted kid. When I moved to the US, I was just a little over 21 years old, about to be 22. And I remember thinking, nobody knows me in this country. I'm going into a university, nobody knows me here. I can be whoever I want to be. So I started speaking slower. I started shifting the way I speak, and I decided I was going to be as extroverted as my introverted self would allow it. So when
Wow.
people meet me, they don't believe I'm an introvert. I I remember telling somebody, I said, for me, once I'm done teaching a class, I don't want to talk to people again. I just want to sit by myself, give me a book, I'm happy to read it. I like doing my training. I love teaching, I love coaching, I love doing my public speaking. But that for me, that opportunity that showed up to say, you can reinvent yourself here, nobody knows you. And I took a
Mm.
big step there to say, I'm gonna try and do something different. And I decided to not be that shy introverted person who doesn't know how to talk to people. My father was somebody who I would joke that he's never met a stranger in his life. He could talk to
Wow.
anybody on the planet, and I was completely the opposite. So I was like, I'm going to become more like him. And I
Mm.
kind of reinvented myself in the moment. I think because of the challenge of having a stutter, it forced me to be more aware of how I show up and how I speak and what I can do with people on stage in a class. And it's helped me grow in ways I would not have done if I didn't have a stutter.
Wow. It's incredible because yeah, I think probably a lot of people would do the exact opposite as what you did, and
Yeah.
use that as a way to define themselves and say, look, this is who I am. I can't do it for this kind of reason. And this
Yeah.
is not to blame these kind of people. It's just that you took a different decision, that you decided, like, I'm not going to let my life be defined
Yeah,
by this
exactly. Because
two things, I would say.
I had an opportunity to show, become something different and be able to deal with my stutter and not be laughed at because nobody knew I had a stutter.
Hmm.
So I could control it. And back in India, my everybody in my class, they all knew I had a stutter. So it was harder for me to reinvent myself. But here I'm like, nobody knows me, go for it.
It's interesting. So that also means that you kind of had the control about the stutter by the time you came to
I
US,
I
I would say.
started working on my stutter, I think, when I was in my doing my undergrad. There was a person in the university who was a speech therapist at the university, and she one day said, "Here, come, let me give you some tips."
Mm.
And it
And
was just informal, but that helped.
and did now I'm also an interesting other kind of question. Did the fact that you switched to talking in English helped you? Because you talked before that in India you speak very, very fast. Is the fact that you moved to talking in English, did that had an impact or not?
No, we've always spoken English, even in India. Like I went to an English school run by English people. So we've always grown up speaking English. English was what was spoken at home as well. I think it was the ability to kind of slow down. And I also believe, and here's the other interesting thing that I've been thinking of recently. I now, like, I think back in India when I was growing up, I would possibly not think in English, but I would speak in English, right?
Mm,
Because my first language was, I mean, we grew up with English, but my native mother tongue is not English. It's a different language.
mm.
So my mother would speak to us in that language. We would think in that and perhaps respond in English. Now I think in English. I dream in English. I no
And
longer
so,
dream in other languages. So I think that also helps with speech.
because you don't have to do the translation and everything,
Right.
so that so
Right.
your mind, yeah, can fully focus on the words
Hmm.
that you're going to say, and stuff
Yep.
like that. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting extra addition to that. So thanks for adding that. That's yeah, that is indeed a very wonderful story again. I want to move to the next question, because these all these stories that you share a lot of passion, a lot of drive. Do you know where that's coming from?
I, my husband says I'm a perpetual learner, right? And I am.
Mm,
I think what drives me is a constant, purposeful journey of I want to know more, I want to learn more. My kids have learned that even if they ask me the most innocuous thing, I am going to ask them 20 questions because I want
wow.
to know. I want to know everything, what's happening, why it's happening. And now they come prepared anytime they come to me and say, so I want to go do this. And here's the thing, I'm going with so and so, blah, blah, blah. They give me all the information. I'm like, okay, you've given me the information. I'm good. Right. And I think this actually,
Does
the
that mean that they wait before they come to ask you stuff then?
Oh no, they come and they're prepared. They're prepared. They've I mean they're 25 and 22. They're not little. So
Hmm.
now they don't ask for any permission. They just do what they want to do. But when they had to ask permission, like
But
I
also
don't
at 25, I assume that sometimes they ask some advice from their mother.
advice. Yes, they still do come to us for advice and some assistance, but permission not quite. not not for a long time. But
Hmm.
I've always been curious. I've always been so curious about everything. I think that's what drives me. And my I often tell this story to my kids and I say, so when I was coming to the US, I did not want to come to the US. All
Hmm.
my friends were in India, were moving to get a job in some city, and I want to do the same. I want to hang out with my friends. My parents actually said, well, if you just stay here, you are not going to grow. So that they have, I think my parents are responsible for this growth mindset that I have, which, so they said, fine, you don't want to go to the US to get a degree, you don't have to get a degree, but you must go to the US for 1 year. So my parents said, we are your parents, give us 1 year of your life. We want you to go outside the US, outside India, and we want you to experience the world outside India. Go for 1 year.
Wow.
And if you, at the end of 1 year, you want to come back, come on back. We'll bring you back and you do whatever. And I said, okay, so 1 year. I'm coming back in 1 year. They said, yeah, sure. That was 35 years ago.
And you're still there.
I'm still here. I think my parents have pushed us all to be curious about what we don't know. They were educators, they were lifelong learners themselves. All myself, my siblings, we've all constantly reading, learning, going to places we've not gone before just to know about places. That's something that my parents have instilled in us. And I hope my husband and I have instilled this in our kids. And I'm
Mm.
hoping I instill this in every student who ever comes to my class, that I can only teach you so much in the time I have with you, but there's so much more in the world to learn and experience. The minute you stop learning and stop experiencing, you're done. For me, that's what drives me, the curiosity to know more, learn more, and be open to things that you never thought were possible.
And in that sense, yeah, the whole story, everything you say right from the start, every time. Also, well, going to the US without much desire, I would say, but still, your parents kind of pushed you
Yeah,
well, I would. It's a little bit doubty. Is it in a gentle way? Not really, because it's really like you're going to do that, so it's really controlling. But at the same time, it's like with compassion. Like, okay, but if
yeah.
after 1 year it doesn't work, you
Then
know
you
that
come
you can
back.
return. So you know there is a
Yeah,
safety net. It's not like we're pushing you out. It's like
yeah,
we push you into the world and you experience it,
yeah.
and and um, and you're still experiencing it. That's
And
what
I'm
I'm
still
hearing you.
experiencing it. Yes.
That's a really wonderful story. And that kind of brings me automatically to that next question. What do you consider your biggest achievement so far? And before I want to go there, you might have noticed in some of the other videos is there is actually a question below. And the question below is that is it easy, because this is basically your moment to brag. And is it easy for Anu to brag?
Um, Now, yes, about 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been. But I think
Mm,
now, absolutely. I think I'm very, very proud of the fact that um, 7 years ago, I decided to. I'm an Indian, so salaried jobs are a thing, right?
mm,
You do the comfortable salaried job. That's what we do. That's what is drilled into us. But I went independent 7 years ago. I never thought in my wildest dreams I would ever own my own company and ever be doing the things I'm doing now. And I believe my biggest achievement has been just owning my own company, doing what I want to do, and pursuing the personal growth that I've been wanting to do. I've My business partner keeps telling me, she goes, "You are a learning junkie." Because you
mm.
just want to keep learning and growing and get all kinds of new degrees or certifications. Absolutely, I want to get more stuff, right? Every year I'm trying to learn more and grow. I think for me, my achievement is one, what I've done for me, and I think one of my bigger achievements is being a role model to my two stepdaughters.
Wow.
they
Uh,
they see me and they go, well, okay, she's doing this, so what can I do? My older daughter, this weekend, she's going to graduate with a master's degree. My younger daughter is about to go to school for an arts degree into the best one of the best schools in the country. This is them doing all their hard work. My accomplishment is showing them that you can do this. It's not easy, but you can do this. And I think
mm.
for me, being that role model is also what drives me, because I want to show up as a role model, not just to my girls, but to my friends' kids, to my nieces, my nephews, anybody who sees me, and people I volunteer for, people I mentor. I want to be a role model to them and show them. And I think if I can, my achievement is I'm able to influence people to believe they can do it. That. And of
And I
course,
want, go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
And I think being being an immigrant in this country, it is very hard to get to where I am.
Mm.
Being a woman of color is hard. It's automatically a harder journey, and I'm very proud of my journey, that how I got here. I worked mainly in banks. As a woman of color in a US bank, you can imagine the journey I've gone through. I'm very proud of what I've been able to do. I'm very proud of the reputation I've garnered within those banks, within the financial organizations, within our agile community. I do what I feel is the right thing to do. And I've achieved a certain level of respect, and I'm very proud of that.
Thanks for sharing it, because it's indeed it's something that you can be proud of. I want to move a little bit to what you said in the beginning, like 10 years ago it would have been hard for you to brag and to be proud of that. What changed? Do you know what triggered that you can now be much more proud of your achievements?
So I think, kind of, I believe I do. Believe, um, from my previous relationship, it had really done a number on my own self confidence, right? So after lots of work on myself, I was getting better. And then I have a support group now. I mean, and
Hmm.
this is my husband, my business partner. These are the people who support me, and they have given me the confidence to know that anytime I jump off a ledge, I will land safely because they will be there to catch me. I know that.
Mm.
I have a group of people who really care about what I do, how I do, and it's reciprocated. Like I do it for them as well. And I think having somebody have that much faith in you, if they can have that much faith in me, you know what? I can do a little bit of bragging myself. I got this too. So,
I like that because indeed, why would somebody believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? It's
exactly.
and
Exactly.
and 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 the opposite. Once people start to believe in you, it's like hard to say, well, I don't. So yeah, okay.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that I asked that extra question because it shows again the journey you've been
Yeah.
to. It's like you say, coming into a different country with everything you just said. It's wonderful that you can thrive
Mhm.
basically and
Yeah.
daring to go for these kind of things. That's yeah, these are wonderful stories. Thank you for sharing them. Let's move to that next question. Do you have a personal agility tip to share?
The normal standard personal agility tips are, use a task board, make sure you don't plan much. For me, the biggest thing that has helped me be agile in my own life is, what my partner and I, we call us accountability partners. So my business
Mm,
partner, who I believe I mentioned to you, she and I our accountability partners. We're business partners. We're close friends. Where every Monday we meet. We have an accountability session where we have a list of questions that we walk through. Um, what were your goals from last week? What was your highs? What were your lows? It's like a mini retrospective introspection within accountability partners, and we hold each other accountable for holding up boundaries, for making sure we have balance, and I
mm,
think that has kept me honest with my personal agility because I have somebody who's also holding me accountable. So at times when I'm going, yeah, it's okay, I really don't want to. She'll come and say, what do you mean? No, you're going to do this. So we hold each other accountable. And I think that having that one-on-one accountability with each other has been so big in our lives. It has really helped both of us step into what we need, step into being able to use our voices, being agile in our lives. I think that for me, having an accountability partner, and we meet every week, our families know Monday evening is the AP call day. We don't plan anything on Monday evening for Anu or Kate.
wow. So
So,
you're not, so I'm hearing multiple things because you said I have an accountability partner. I heard a few questions like, okay, what's
mhm,
good, what's bad. So that's also kind of tip. I also heard that we block the Monday off, Monday evening. So
yep,
basically, this is time we block. So these are
sacred time.
multiple tips into one sacred time for your business partner, for your accountability, to make sure that both of you basically point to each other and say, well, maybe you think it's going great, but you can do better. And
Exactly.
I really like that. And yeah, I on purpose don't define much what is an agility tip because it might go in all kind of directions.
Exactly.
And I really like your answer. The fact that we take responsibility but let's face it, if we take responsibility, we sometimes need someone that shows us a mirror that says, well, maybe today you might think you have it doing well, but we
Mm,
know, or I, as your mirror or whoever that we call you,
exactly.
I see something else. Like that's a very powerful way
And
of doing it.
we've been friends for about 10 years now. We've been working together for about 8 of those years. She's an independent, I'm an independent. About 3 years ago is when we started doing these formal accountability sessions. Before that, we would chat when we had time. We would say, hey, I have to ask, I want to check in with you. There was no sacred time for accountability. We just did it when we had time. Let me tell you, the only time, only weeks we have missed doing Mondays is certain times of the year we both meet to do our strategy planning for our business. That time is the only time we don't do this. Even when you're on vacation, you're going to take out an hour to do accountability calls.
Wow, wow,
Yeah,
that's called dedication.
yeah.
Even during holidays. Yeah, I can see that accountability might be helpful even when holidays and everything.
On your personal
Uh,
life too.
exactly, and yeah, there is a list of questions that I'm not as good as you are, but there is a list of questions that I'm using also with my partner to say, okay,
Yeah,
where are we, and do we are we still on the same page? Is there
yeah.
anything that we want to share? Is there anything that we want to keep each other accountable for? So
and
that's
and we've changed our questions over the years. So Kate and I, so you know, she's Kate, I'm Anu, and together we are Team Katanu. So
mm.
that's our brand when we work together. But we adjust our questions as well. Every so often we'll say, are these questions still helping us hold each other accountable? If
And
not, we
do you have that list or
yeah,
a part of that list? Wait, we haven't finished my question. Do you have it somewhere visible where you
yes.
teach it to people? So because
Uh,
I
It is, we actually have a electronic PDF of the questions. So every page is for individual weeks. So right now we are on week 26 of the year or wherever we are. But yeah, we have the same questions. It's a PDF. We share it with our leadership coaching clients as
mm,
well. We set them up with accountability. We share the questions with them. We help them also create some accountability partners. So yeah, it's not published or anything, but it's available for us in a PDF format.
great. That's wonderful because indeed that's kind of where I was going for. I can imagine that all your clients would really love to learn about that because you practice what you preach and then you can really because agile and a lot of what you're teaching is about taking responsibility for the things
Right.
that we're doing and that's a lot. So thanks for sharing again. Let's move to that next question about remote work. And I'm really curious. You moved from India to the US, but did you, do, for example, I understand from there that your family was left behind in India. So I kind of hear that you are also having some remote ways of connecting with them. Maybe I'm wrong, but did you have a lot of remote working experience before COVID, for example?
No, I mean, like I was never working in India, so I have no working experience in India at all. And back when I came in the late 80s, early 90s, calling India was a really expensive thing.
Yeah, I
Well,
can
there was
imagine.
no internet, there was no WhatsApp, there was no text messages. Calls were expensive, and as a student, we called a couple of times a year just so that we could say hi to the parents. Right? Um, my siblings were here in the U.S., so I was able to connect with them more. And over the over my career here, I think most of my clients pre-pandemic all been in person. But being a consultant for most of the last decade, consulting companies, we're all remote. So I was used to doing remote work within the consulting company. So if I worked for a consulting company, we would have check-ins and whatever, but client work was still done in person.
Mm,
My biggest realization in the past 3 years about remote work is looking at how companies do remote work tells me a lot about their culture. A lot of clients will say, oh, we don't want our people to work from home because we don't trust them. Why not? You only trust them when you can see them? Do you know for a fact that they're working 8 full hours a day when they're on site? Is that what you trust? Oh,
mm,
but we don't want them to go and do whatever they want because you don't empower them. So I think I'm beginning to see the difference in cultures where remote work is okay and remote work is healthy, and when remote work is absolutely not working. Um, I have clients who have very healthy working distributed remote teams. And I have clients whose culture is does not support remote work because there is no trust.
mm. And what I understand as well, and what you previously said, the questions that you work with your partner around accountability. That's my assumption when you were saying it. I didn't realize it, but I realize it now. Then my assumption was that that was done remote in a call as
Yeah.
well, or do you physically meet?
No, remote.
Where kind of as an example, if you say once you have the trust, it doesn't really matter if you're remote or physically,
It
it
doesn't really
can work.
matter. And I think if we can help leaders build some of that trust. So one of the over the last 5 to 8 years, the focus of my work has been leadership development. And agile, non-agile, doesn't matter. It's about leadership development. And I am working, my focus also is helping leaders understand that they are responsible for the culture as well. So they need to create that culture of safety, culture of trust, culture of understanding that our people are human and they will do the best they can do, but we have to trust them on that. And I think once that trust is built, you can do a lot of other stuff. You can work with whatever challenges come your way. But if there is no trust, it doesn't matter whether you're remote or in person, challenges are going to be harder.
I fully agree there. It's the trust, and of course, creating trust remote is harder than
Very
creating
hard.
trust in person, but it's not impossible. And it's once you have that trust, maintaining that trust is, well, I'm not going to say as easy remote. It still is a little bit harder, but it still is possible,
It is.
and not that hard. I would agree there. So thanks for sharing that, because that's indeed, yeah, an important part of working in today's day and age, I would say. Um,
Yeah.
I want to move to that next question. What is for you a book that you want to talk about?
So from I sent you a bunch of books. Like I'm like, oh my God, what book shall I talk about? I have so many books. For me, like the book that has deeply influenced me is the Authentic Leadership by Bill George. The what was one of the books I sent you. Um,
Mhm. Let's
I
bring it on screen. That's this
okay,
book, I think. Yeah.
that's the one. Yes. So this is the book. Like years ago, when I was leading a team, I was a very command and control leader, and through various machinations, I discovered this book, and working through it is what helped me shift my leadership style. And
Mm,
today, in when I teach the certified agile leadership classes, the Cal 2 classes, this is what I bring in because my logic is if this book could change a stubborn person like me and help me shift my style, it can help anyone. I love the book. It's he has another couple of books which I absolutely enjoy reading. But that book, just the stories and how leadership is about being who you are and not about putting on a facade, right? I used to believe that leadership was acting the role, that if I could just
Mm.
act the role of a leader and be, I am the boss and everything would be fine. But it's not, it doesn't work that way, right?
I want to
Until,
go a little bit
yeah,
into detail because I've coached some people who act the way you are or you describe here, and some of them really tell me like, Eve, no, this is not an act. I really am like that,
uh-huh.
and I can imagine that some people are. So I'm not going to say that is true, but or not true. But how was it for you? That's what it is. Were you actually believing in it, and were you acting because you felt that way, or did you really felt that it was acting? I'm trying to find if there is
I
a
think it
difference
was a
here.
little bit of both because I didn't know what it meant to be a leader. When I
Mm.
was made a manager, I was sent to a 3 day class that was supposed to teach me everything I needed to be a manager. All it taught me was how to use the systems that were
Mm.
available, right? How do you approve vacations? How do you do perform? That's all they taught me.
So
Nobody
they
taught
taught
me.
you tools, but they didn't talk you anything about leadership. So it's more
No,
bureaucracy and
very.
tools and okay, okay.
Okay, this is what you have to do. You have to manage the schedule. You got to do this. You got to get this stuff done. So my focus was on the tasks, not on the people. Right? And I believe that for many years that that's what I'm supposed to do. And here's the thing. I was good at it and I kept getting promoted. So why would I
It,
change
so
my
the
behavior?
system, exactly, the system kind of acknowledged that what you were doing was working.
Yeah. So I continued and why would I change that behavior? It was it was an innocuous thing that happened at a beach. My husband said something to me that made me think about, oh my God, I keep complaining about the people on my team, and I keep telling him my people don't know anything. They're just a bunch of morons. And I realized in that moment, I had this big aha moment based on something he said, which said, they are not the morons. I'm the moron. I am not
Mm.
doing my job, and I'm making their job harder by dictating what I want them to do. And it was like it was a little bit of a nugget
And
that
and
started.
and that was mostly triggered by this book I'm hearing, or at
And
least that book
then,
was a
yeah,
big trigger in it.
and this book was a thing that helped me continue that triggering work to say, so what does, who am I as a leader? I
Mm.
didn't know who I was as a leader. So I just did what I saw other people doing around me. So I acted the part of a leader, and I believe that was what good leadership was.
And they
This
kept promoting you because so they kept telling you you're doing a good
You're
job
doing a great
perfectly,
job. Keep doing it. So I said, okay.
and the
But
people below you might have disagreed, but they weren't heard when you were promoted
exactly. And
because
so
they were the morons.
this book actually helped me s- be introspective and think about who am I as a leader? What is my authentic style as a leader? Who do I want to be? And that has shifted completely. I even today, like he has a second book called Discover Your True North. And there is a field book that goes with it. We do that field book every year. Like we
Mm.
redo the questions, we redo everything so that we keep honing that authentic self over and over and over again.
Yeah,
Because as we grow older, that changes.
I really like that you mentioned that because indeed the discover that your true north is one of the books that I've read
Yes.
over the years, over the last year actually. And yeah, I was thinking I haven't read this book, but I was thinking I recognized the name, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to see
So
the, I don't know, it's somewhere there. Okay, the book is
And
somewhere
here,
there. The true
that book
note.
comes with this field guide, field book.
Hmm.
This is what
Exactly.
I use with clients as well, often to say, read the book, do the work so you figure out who you really are. And I think
Mm.
once you figure out that authentic self, you can truly be an authentic leader, which will lead to better people, better results, everybody being more happier. And I think that's, for me, that book has been very instrumental in my life.
Okay. And you wanted to talk, well, there's a few more books. So let's see. What is there another book you want to talk about?
So there's another book that I love, and I often recommend this to my students as well and my clients. It's called The Four Agreements by Don
Let's
Miguel
see.
Ruiz.
And I think I have it ready here. That's the one.
That's the one. So I discovered this book when I was actually dealing with the aftermath of my first relationship, and I learned
Mm,
about this book over the last couple of decades. And so this book talks about how, as we grow up, our societal values, our family values, our friend structures, whatever it is, kind of lead us to make agreements on you should do this, right?
mm.
I should do this. I'm a good Indian girl. I should do this, right? As a
Hence
good,
the no button that you were talking about, because indeed
yep,
the yeah,
exactly.
the good Indian girl would never say no. That's a little bit the message I understood there.
Exactly. A good Indian girl would never divorce an Indian boy and marry an American, right? But I did.
Wow.
Um, but
And so that because maybe I'm going too much into detail, and if I go, you just say that you don't want to go there. But I didn't meant it when I asked that question, but when the no is that part which made it harder in that abusive relationship, because
yeah,
you were kind of taught the value that saying no is not part of our
it's not
culture.
part of what you do, and
Mhm.
you don't end a relationship. Marriages
Wow.
are for life, and I'm fortunate that I came here to the US and I met people here and got educated here that taught me other things too. My original values are not bad values, but I needed more values to stand up for myself. And the four
Yeah,
agreements was actually
I,
very helpful to say, what are the new agreements I want to make for myself?
I really like that, because I think in many religions, cultures, and all these kind of things, most of these ideas are really good, but
Yeah,
it's when it's too much that they're no longer good. Even drinking
exactly.
water is very healthy, but if you drink too much water, it becomes unhealthy again. So there is even the very healthy stuff at some point. Too much is not good, and okay, saying no might be good for some parts, but yeah, if you can't say
Mhm.
yes, if you can't
Yeah,
say a no at some point, then what does your yes still means? That's an important part to
yeah,
realize. So there is yeah, there's a lot of there. So this is a book that helped you what I'm hearing, discover your own kind of things that are important for you,
yeah,
not so much based on your culture, not so much based on your parents, but on
exactly.
you, who you are.
Yeah. So one of the things it says, is don't take things personally, right? And it's like,
Mm,
how do I not take things personally? I'm a human. But the thing that I keep reminding myself over and over again is what it says in the book is when people say and do things, it's the way they feel. That is what they do. It's on them. That's not about you. So if somebody is being really mean, it's because they are mean. It has nothing to do with you. So don't take their behavior personally. That's their behavior.
and
And
they might just have a bad day for
they might
whatever
just have a
happened.
bad day, right? So don't take it personally. And it's hard. And this is where that accountability partnership becomes very helpful, right? So there are
Mm,
times when I'll call Kate and say, okay, I need a check. I just got off this call and I heard somebody say this and I am feeling, and she'll go, wait a minute, are you taking it personally? Let's talk it through. So we also talk each other off the reactions that we have because we're human.
mm.
So I think
Yeah, that's
accountability partners also helps ground us into the agreements we are making for ourselves.
wow. It's yeah, it all comes together again. So that's yeah, I'm not surprised, of course. Okay, we is there still another book? I know you have more books, but I don't know if you how much time you want to spend on the books. But
So let me see. I think the other book I mentioned to you was Sam Kaner's book on
indeed,
facilitation.
There
Right.
is multiple
That one.
versions of this one.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
multiple versions of that one.
I think many coaches use it. I've actually received. I bought a copy myself. I received copies from coaches and
Yeah,
people because many people love it. Although it's, I don't know, by now already 10 years old or something like that. But it's wonderful that even if it's that old, that you still bring it up and say this is a book that's influencing me. So
yeah.
why should coaches, managers, or anyone, or why should someone read this book?
For me, um what has really helped me with this book is, I do a lot of facilitation. I do facilitation. I teach facilitation, and I think there are so many times when, as a facilitator, it is easy to jump into fixer mode or
Mm,
solver mode. I think there are so many things that Kaner brings up in his book that makes me realize that the neutrality stance of the facilitator is so critical. And everything that he talks about in this book brings it back home to me that, as a the neutrality is the most important thing I bring as a facilitator. And like most of the humans, I'm a fixer. If you give me a problem, I'll jump in and try and solve it, even if you don't want me to. But as a facilitator, this helps me stay grounded in that neutrality. It reminds me over and over again. That's why I bring it up, because I read it over and over again.
it's, yeah, it's one of these books. It's a very large, big book.
Yeah,
So that's the negative part because it's hard to take with me all the time. I would say in my backpack, but at the same time, it's yeah, one thing that I, well, maybe not every week, but yeah, multiple times a year I go back to and read and
yeah.
try to learn again. Like you say, I think a lot of us coaches, we are, well, I would call it, we have the ego to think that we can help people, and in that sense, in a lot of cases, it's like, let's fix it. Yes, you come with a problem.
I'll fix it for you.
Exactly, and the people ask it to us, and
Uh-huh.
actually, yes, and well, I would say depending on where they are on their journey, maybe it's good that we show them that there is a
Yes.
fix. Because if we don't do it, and if people are really new, and we say, well, you're on your own, I will just ask you some questions, they will like, what? Yeah.
And I think, that's a great point to bring up, because sometimes people don't understand what coaching is. So
Mm,
as I got into professional coaching, not just agile coaching, so I again, my achievements. One of the things I did was I went and got worked with the International Coaching Federation. I have the PCC certification with them. Again, very proud of the effort I put into that. But before, when I first started this journey on professional coaching, um, I had one of my very first clients. He didn't he didn't know what coaching is. He thought I was going to solve his problems, and I was so
mm,
desperately trying to be a professional coach. I don't think I did a good enough job to explain to him what coaching is and what to expect. And after the first few sessions, he just stopped showing up to any coaching. He just ghosted me, and I'm going, "Oh my God, I'm a horrible coach." And I'm like, "No, I I forgot to teach him
what
what coaching
coaching
is
is.
and what coaching is not." And I think being
Mm.
grounded in those stances becomes very important.
Yeah, I like that you add that part of it, and I sometimes compare it to, well, we talked about children at 25 that they don't, they're asking different kind of questions. A baby from 1 year old, or younger, you can just say, okay, dress yourself, here are the clothes.
Tell me what you
No,
want to eat today.
exactly. So we need to guide them and help them, and at some point, I don't know, somewhere between 1 and 5, they will say, I want to dress myself. Okay, then we
Yep.
give them and we tell them in what order to
Yeah.
dress it and whatever. And there will be a point that they say, no, I want to change the order. And actually that's fine as long as you get dressed. But it's a different kind of stance. And that's a little bit with coaching as well. In the beginning, if you've never heard of, okay, I might fix it a little bit and I'll show you the exact solution. If you're a little
Mhm.
bit older or more experienced, I'll say, okay, these are two solutions. I explain it to you and I let you choose. I might even say this is best in your case, but still there's two options.
Yeah.
A little bit later, I will show you two options and I'll let you explore them. And when we really start into coaching is I'm asking you questions and you come up with the
Yeah.
options.
Exactly.
And when we need to guide them into that so that they understand the kind of questions we're asking. I
Hmm.
was just like you, a very horrible one in the beginning, like either coming up with options every the full thing or not, and there was no way in between. And I didn't like giving the options because I knew that's not what a coach does. But if I don't do it, they walk
Exactly.
away. And yeah, so I really had a hard time
Me too.
finding that path and that balance. And I really like that you give that to the people here also about,
Yeah.
yeah, was that then a bad coach? In a way it was, but it was more about the preparation for the client, really much more than some of
Yeah.
your skills, I would say.
Yeah.
It's Thanks for sharing that. And so, well, okay, we talked a little more about three different books, but I
Yeah.
think three different kind of books that show
Different.
a very interesting journey again, and related to a lot of what you said earlier on.
Hmm.
I want to move to, for me, one of the most interesting questions is that what's a question do you think I should also ask you, and what's the answer?
This is the question I don't like. I ask this question to many people. So, what should I ask you? I'm like, oh, I don't
Mm,
want this question. I don't like this question. Um, so, I think a question that I would have liked to have answered. It's a question that I'm like lots of thoughts going on in my head, and I'm going, oh,
mm,
this is the one question I didn't think about ahead of time because I didn't want to.
mm,
I think I think the question I would like to answer is about why I like to, like, having come up as a product owner, having come up through agility for as long as I did, why why do I like coaching leaders on their journey? What is it about
mm,
that makes me go, yay, I get to do this fun stuff. And I think I may have answered this indirectly earlier as well. I think it's because my own leadership journey was so hard. I had nobody teaching me how to be a good leader. Um, that's one of the reasons why I love doing what I do. Like, I have a roster of clients who I coach who are leaders in organizations. They're not doing Scrum or Kanban or any of that. They just want executive or leadership development coaching. Um, so I
mm.
like, so
It's
I,
it's it's not really about agile techniques and
nope,
anything like that.
at
It's yeah.
all. Not at all. It's about how do I, as a leader, create a culture of trust and empowerment and psychological safety, and how do I stop being a command and control leader? That's it. Not, they don't implement any agile frameworks at all, right? So I love that because I get to help leaders, but in the same way I wish I had received some help way back. Maybe I'd have been less of a nasty leader in the beginning of my journey. Um, that, and second, the other thing I also love doing leadership development, I go back to the young people, right? I do a lot of classes. I'm a certified Scrum trainer. I do all the Scrum Alliance classes, but I offer a lot of them as outreach for college students. So whether it's a CSM because they're about to go off into the world and get a job, whether it's the certified agile leadership, I think today's world, we have a responsibility to ensure that the generation that's coming behind us is prepared to fix the things we are breaking right now.
Hmm.
If we don't prepare them to clean up our messes, we are leaving them a mess, and then we are not giving them any tools to clean the mess. So they are going to
Yeah,
have to live with the crap we are leaving behind. So I think it is, I take that as a responsibility to say, I can't solve the messes. I don't have the time, energy, effort, or the know how. But what I can do is I can teach our young people who are coming behind us to say, here are some tools, here are the ways of empowerment, here are the ways of creating good safety, here's how you need to look after each other. It's about the people. How do we teach them now so that when they get to their first job, they're able to recognize the mess we are creating for them, and they can say, you know what, I know how to deal with this.
I thank you for doing that, because it's like you said, you learned it probably way too late because you didn't receive any of that
Exactly.
leadership training. Um, well, we talked earlier about your education, the fact that although you were in psychology, you didn't learn to recognize how to ask
Mhm.
questions and anything. So leaving you with less empathy for the people that you were talking
Exactly.
about, and
Yeah.
now you say, well, instead of just complaining or whatever, you do something about it, and you
Yeah.
work with young, well, the leaders of the future, I would say, yeah,
Yeah.
to help them and do that, so
Like,
that.
like I get asked a lot, so why do you spend 20 hours of your time per month volunteering and mentoring and giving up free time? I'm like, I'm paying it forward. I
Mm.
got
and
here on
and
other people's shoulder. I am allowing use of my shoulders for others.
and you do it to people younger than you were at the time you're learning, because then the investment will pay off for a longer period in a way,
I
as
actually
well.
offer that to all ages. Like I do the for the young people, I do it free of cost. It's I bring them into my classes, I do free group coaching sessions, whatever. Um, for people who are now looking to become certified trainers or certified coaches, I have a mentoring group that I have been running for the last few years where I am trying to also increase the diversity in our agile community. There are not many trainers and coaches who look like me. I was the I was the first woman of Indian origin to become a CST. And that's a shame because there are a lot of amazing Indian women out there. There are lots of amazing other humans out there of other diversity areas that should be part of our community. How do we increase
it's
that?
it's amazing that you, well, it amazes me when you say that, because, well, I've been to Agile India, and well, I was invited for a long time before I accepted. But the thing is, it's an amazing, great,
It
vibrant
is.
community, and it has been for a very long time.
Yeah.
And still, then I hear that you're the first person that then has this. Yeah, that's
Yeah. And
amazing.
that means 8 years ago, when I got my CST, that was the first time an Indian woman became a CST. 8 years ago. That's that's
That's too late.
shameful. Right, so my what I've been doing now is I run a mentoring circle where I invite anyone. It's not just people of color or women. Anybody who's looking for help can apply to join, and based on what you want to do, I invite you into my group. We meet once a month, we talk about it, I do one-on-one coaching. For me, it's about giving back to the community. I think that's the thing that I am also very proud of what I do. I give back a lot to the community because this is the community that got me here.
And
So
I see a lot of us taking that time.
yeah,
And indeed, there are people who don't understand, but I think it's up to us to indeed, well, do that part of creating a better world. And like you
yeah,
say, it's kind of
and
hard to do a lot of
yeah,
creating ourselves, but the teaching is
yeah,
big part of that.
big part of that. And when in my mentoring group, I mean, I don't charge them anything for my time. What I do require them is once they become a CST, CEC, whatever they're looking to become, that they are committing to mentoring at least two people on their journey.
Wow,
You pay
that's
forward.
so they are paying. They are
If
paying. They
they
just
are
don't pay
paying with
you,
their
but they are
time.
paying to the community and with their time.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
you shouldn't say that you do it for free, because actually they're paying a lot more. They're paying with their time, which is
They're
much
paying with
more
their
expensive.
time.
So thanks to that's you don't, well, in a way you, I was about to say you don't reap the benefits, but you
I
do, because
do.
the world becomes, but it's just not in a monetary value.
Exactly. I reap benefits because my community is better, stronger,
Hmm.
and it's not everything's about money.
Exactly, exactly. Well, we've come to the real last question. Who do you think I should ask next? And I kind of think you kind of dropped the name already, and you kind of.
Yes. So of course I would recommend Kate. She is my other half.
I think this is Kate. This
That
is
is
correct.
her. Yes, that is her. She's the other half of Team Katanu, and we work well together. I think we make each other better as women, as human, as agilists. We own our own small businesses and we make each other better in all ways possible. So she is my partner, business partner, accountability partner. So I absolutely think she would be a great person for you to chat. um, I don't have you talked to Stuart Young yet?
I haven't talked to Stuart, so that's actually a good idea as
Stuart
well.
is another one. Like he was one I've known Stuart for, I don't know, 8 9 years. He was part of my mentoring group, and he became a CST last year. He's like me. He came up from the product side. So for me, Stuart is another person who is an amazing agilist. He does a lot for the community. He would be a great candidate for your talks. So between him and Kate, I think you got two home runs there.
That's a wonderful thing. And let me see if I can bring him on. Let me, because I did. Oops, I have. Interesting enough, I have something. Uh, my second screen was
Ah,
doing strange. I'm bringing and here, and now I should bring it up. Uh, I think this is Stuart. Am I correct?
you are correct.
Because yeah, it's always nice when people mention people that I didn't talk to, and we didn't prepare it, so it was kind of quickly adding
Yeah,
adding him to the show. But I think it's also important to, well, to again add some other kind of diversity, other kind of things.
yeah,
And I really like it. It's of course, for me, the bad thing is I have now again two people, so my list is exploding.
yes.
Um, but yeah, I'm really thank you for your time, for bringing all these nice stories. Anu, if people want to contact you, what is a good way to contact you?
I think LinkedIn is the easiest way. I'm
Am
not
I correct that this is
That's
your
correct. That's Anu Smalley is my LinkedIn handle. I am not a big social media person on any other things. So LinkedIn is the easiest way. If you shoot me a message on LinkedIn, I will respond. Um, I'm always wanting to
I
connect
think
with
so.
more people. So yeah,
I Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been wonderful stories. It's been wonderful learning about you. We talked a little bit before, or we said, okay, creating trust online remotely, it is possible. I really feel very, very humbled with the stories that you shared. These are not easy stories to share. So the trust that you had in me for sharing it, I'm really grateful. And it shows for me that we can create these kind of connections, that we
mhm,
can create these kind of, yeah, stories, which is for me,
yeah,
well, big part of why I'm doing this, because we might know the brand Anu, and we might
ex-
know the work, but like you say, what is behind that, and
yeah,
where are you coming from? And yeah, I'm really amazed on all the work that you did on yourself, to work on yourself, the hard parts that were there, but that you didn't let them define you. You
Mhm.
use them as a way to become a stronger person,
Right.
with actually a lot more empathy, I would say, for other people in the world. So it's I'm really amazed about your stories.
Thank you. And I think you bring up an amazing point, and I think I've mentioned this in a couple of other places. Our community is only as strong as the stories we share.
Mm,
And what you
true.
do is you bring out all these stories that we can share with the community. So it's an amazing service you're offering to build a community based on stories. You cannot build a community without trust. You cannot build trust without sharing your stories. And I think that's a very important part of. We don't stop and listen to each other's stories. We say, "Oh, what classes are you teaching?" Okay, take a minute back and say, "So tell me who you are." Right? Stories are the foundation of building a good community, of a strong community. And I think what you're
Mm.
doing is actually helping with that. So thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for recognizing and for seeing it. It's indeed a big part of, yeah. I'm always interested to learn about the people behind. If it's the big agile names, or the from the past, the big agile names from the future, or just the people who do the agile work in a team that will never become a big name, but that's not really important. It's okay. What are the persons
Mhm.
behind it? And this is
Exactly.
why these stories are so wonderful. So thanks for
100.
bringing up all the time, and for bringing people talking about these wonderful books, but most of all sharing your story. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.